Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Unexpected Results, the Eternal Podcast. Joining me, as always, is my host, the Manted Man. How you doing today?
Well, if you can't tell from the boxes, I'm hot. I'm coming off of my first day of my new job on the West Coast, and I'm ready to talk about some card games and maybe some other stuff.
How about that? Fantastic. Did you ever get your stuff? Did your moving van ever show up with all of your possessions? Everything that you spent an entire lifetime accumulating? The embodiment of yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah. So my capitalist persona, all of my stuff actually showed up today. So I didn't have to do anything. The movers and my wife and anybody she had helping her did all of the work. So all according to plan.
All according to plan. That was what this whole thing was about. Was you
right.
not having to lift a finger.
Yeah, I called them every day and I was like, hey, look, I don't care where the truck is. Slow it down. I don't want you to get here until the 16th, but don't come on the weekends.
Yeah, and don't come after 6 o'clock. Come before that.
That's right.
To make sure I'm at work for it. Well, fantastic. I'm glad your stuff is finally there. I was thinking about that earlier.
Golly, man. It was, all joking aside, this is not the forum, but I will be publicly shaming the company that was responsible for my stuff as much as I can, unless they make it right. I'm not going to do it here by name, but pay attention to my Twitter at Manted Man and see who I tag and who not to use if you're ever going to move across the country, or heck, if you're going to move down the street, don't use these guys.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Well, fantastic. Yeah. So that's good. Well, this weekend we had the ETS. This is just week 2 finally happening after a 2-week hiatus. Yeah, and hey, it was a pretty good event from the look of the top 8.
Yeah, so on the surface, great event, obviously. And excuse me, let me rephrase that. Yes, it was a good event all the way across. I'm not besmirching anything. I'm glad that the ETS team at RNG Eternal is back in and doing what they needed to do. Kaleri did a great job the week prior, but this is what everybody knows, what everybody loves. The turnout obviously reflected that. But the one thing that I want to talk about as we jump just right into it, we're going to be looking at the decks on Eternal Warcry. It's very easy to get to tournament decks on that. Just look on their main page and ETS week 2 top 8. 7 of the 8 decks in the top 8 had one thing in common, and that was the boogeyman of the format currently, time. More specifically, in the top 10 units. So Eternal Warcry does a great thing. Not only do they give you the decks, but they give you a breakdown, some statistics. They tell you like the top 10 cards, the top 10 units, the top 10 spells. So you get, if you have that kind of analytical bug, you get to look at that kind of information. You don't have to do the work yourself. The top 3 units that were used, the top 4 units that were used. Number 4, Dawnwalker. There were 12 of them in the top 8. Number 3, Teacher of Humility, the boogeyman unit that everybody is so scared of for reasons unknown. There were 16 of them in the top 8. Sandstorm Titan, 16, and Initiate of the Sands, 16. So the top 4 cards were mono time, which is, we've seen it before and we'll see it again, but that is crazy. And the top 10 units overall were just time and justice, and there's a couple of like fire stuff thrown in. There's like a Heart of the Vault, Valkyrie Enforcers, things like that. But World Bearer Behemoth is on that list. Aurelian Merchant is on that list. It is very clear where the tournament meta was this past weekend.
The time world, we're just living in it.
Yeah. But we had we had some of the kind of standard people in the top 8. I don't think it's boring that they keep making it. I think it is a mountain that needs to be climbed and detonated from the bottom or dug through. Like, you guys have to these are the targets. These are these titans that have to be taken down. The top Eternal Titan, by the way, being Moosh in first place. Pupicus, who you fought in round 1, right? 1 or 2. Finished in second place.
Yep, he was one of my losses.
Yep. Every week. Wall
is fine.
Waloitaja in third place.
The only Bryce, not time deck.
Yeah, the only deck with 0 time in it. Bryce, who is it's a name that I hadn't seen in a while. I feel like they made top 8 before, maybe, but it was a name that stood out as not as common, obviously. Paradox, the next 4, obviously, there are 5th place tie. So Paradox, with a phenomenal deck that we will talk about in a little bit. Great for ladder, not terribly expensive, and not using too many of the new cards. Air Hater, another new name, Air Hater, with a Rod deck. The Overmaster from the best team, Team Rankstar, and Bruised by God from Seek Power Gaming. Also on a Praxis deck, boring deck, is what he called it.
Praxis mid-range.
Yeah, absolutely. Also a good deck. I feel like almost identical in most ways to Paradoxes. I think Paradox is probably a little more svelte, and it didn't really show in the standings, but I think it shows in the gameplay, especially when you try out the decks.
Yeah, one of Paradox's losses, his only loss, I believe, in the Swiss was to Bruised by God.
Yeah,
that's what he told me today.
In the head-to-head match, Bruised by God's deck is definitely stronger, but I think overall, they're both great decks. I really enjoyed Paradox's deck. That's the deck I want to talk about a bit later. But let's start at the top. Moosh and Pupicus were playing Time Justice Primal, but Moosh's deck has 0 legendaries in it.
Yeah, Moosh is on a like in the Lessie base. He's really on a Gift of Battle deck with with a Lessie, Combray Archmage, and Rilgon's Disciple Coastal Battle Mage. Kind of that what people have been referring to as the Infect deck or whatever in this game. Just Gift of Battle, like units that get bigger when you play spells, and stand-togethers, and all that good stuff. Gift of Battle, man. That's what's up.
Yeah. Now, don't. The deck has no legendary, so it is cheap, but don't go in thinking, if you're watching for the first time or you're very new to the game, don't go in thinking you can grab Moosh's deck and make it on day one. It does have 26 rare cards in it. So while it is only like 23,000 Shiftstone, it's not terribly difficult to grind to get that. It is still, it's got some cost behind it. So it's not a pauper or like an easy deck to build by any means, but it is good, and it's got a lot of staples in it.
It is far and away the cheapest deck in the top 8 by like half.
Yeah, by a hefty margin.
Yeah. So it is really cheap, but I mean, it's also, TJP, its worst thing. The worst thing about TJP decks in general is just like the power base, for whatever reason, just feels a little bit worse than other 3-color combinations, even with the crest now.
Yeah, I was going to ask
a little bit lower to the curve.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you thought the same thing. So there's a lot of 3-color decks floating around now that we have all of the crests. So we have all the crests, all the banners, all the thrones, or chairs, I guess, technically. But TJP still feels very clunky to me with power. Like, I feel like I just get punked on power all the time if I don't make the right moves. Like, if you make one mistake on playing power, you are in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's I always have a hard time playing these like 3-color, these 3-faction decks that are like low to the ground, trying to play a unit on turn 1, unit on turn 2, like it's a really hard time to play the crest, which is the best thing for the 3-faction decks. But when you're playing this type of deck that wants to curve out with your units, it's a little bit more challenging. Then again, that said, this deck is almost a combo deck. It's like play your one threat and then just boom, boom, boom. Now it's a 10-10 and like double, hit them twice with Berserk.
Yeah, well, I was going to say we talk a lot in recent weeks with this new set these lightning rod cards. The problem is in this deck, every card is a lightning rod. It doesn't matter what the card actually does. If you put Gift of Battle on it, it becomes a powerhouse card. So even Awakened Student, which is just a 2-drop that just gets bigger as you play power, if it's not answered pretty quickly and there's an opening and you're able to put Gift of Battle on it, and it pounds in there for 4 or 5 damage per attack, hits twice. You're looking at half of your opponent's hit points that are just gone. Accelerated Evolution is a card that any people who watch Platypus's stream is a very strong card. That permanent +1/+1, giving a card flying, giving a card endurance is fantastic. Another thing that this deck uses that is a card that everybody's kind of talked about it started out kind of polarizing, but it's a very strong card as people are coming to find out, is Rilgon's Disciple. You play any spell and this card gets double damage. And in these colors, in the TJP colors, there's so many kind of pumps that you can get. You have cards like Sharpened Reflexes. You have cards like Finest Hour. You have cards on the top end like Stand Together that make this guy just an impassable wall or a huge amount of damage. So being able to defensively get double damage or offensively get double damage is something that's very big. And obviously Gift of Battle on this guy, it turns a 2/3 into a 4/3 that hits for 8 with a 1-cost spell. It's something very, very big. Hey, nice headphones. Oh, you still can't hear me? That's okay. So while Platypus is working on his headphones, I'll continue to kind of go through a couple of these here. We'll look at his pretty face. Give me one of these if you like. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Paradox's deck while he tries to get stuff done. This is a very good Praxis mid-range deck. I like Paradox as a person. I like Paradox as a player. I like Paradox as a deck builder. And there's been a lot of Praxis in the last few kind of iterations of the meta. Still nothing, unfortunately, from the Platypus King. The Praxis mid-range deck that Paradox has is almost the stock Praxis from before the set was released, except for a couple of changes. We obviously have the Aurelian Merchant. Hey, I heard that.
Yeah.
There we go.
I don't know what's going on with this Turtle Beach, but it's not. It just died. It died. It's not dead. The battery's not dead. I think it overheated. I don't know what's going on.
Oh no!
It just turned off. It didn't make a noise. Like usually it says powering off if it the battery dies, or and it gives you warnings for an hour. But yeah, it just won't turn back on. And I plugged it in and it won't turn on. And yeah, so here I am fumbling around. Got the old headset with the floppy broken ear and the old microphone. So we'll let's try to go from here. So what all decks did you talk about? You finished talking about Moosh's deck.
So I talked about Moosh's deck and just the fact that every card in a deck centered around Gift of Battle becomes a lightning rod card. You have to have the blockers on the field. You have to have answers to pretty much every card because cards like Rilgon's Disciple exist, and even a card like Awakened Student, which is just kind of a stock 2-drop. A couple of turns in becomes a really big problem if they're able to get Gift of Battle on it and attack with it twice. So we're talking about the Praxis mid range. I'm focused a little more on Paradoxes. I was into the changes that came from this set, which are only the Aurelian Merchant and the Teacher of Humility. So everything else is kind of stock. You have your crests and your banners and your seats and stuff like that. Obviously, you play Dawnwalkers. You play some obelisks and everything. If you're a fan of the Praxis archetype, this deck is phenomenal. And I played it on ladder. Even before the tournament was done, and we knew where Paradox ended up, I saw the deck and I was like, ooh, this is my jam, because I love this play style. Quick spells, guys that all have impact when they hit the field, especially, Heart of the Vault is fantastic. Teacher of Humility, obviously, is just a game changer, and scares everybody when it comes down, even Crimson Firemaw. This deck has everything that I like, and you can win really quick. If your opponent is playing control and they want to try and drag it out, they have to just keep answering. Because turn 2, you play Teacher of Humility. They got to kill it or get a blocker down. Turn 3, you're dropping a Dawnwalker. Turn 4, Firemaw or Sandstorm Titan. Turn 5, Worldbreaker Behemoth. And all of that gets faster as you play Initiate of the Sands, as you play the Aurelian Merchant, because those cards give you bonus power. And obviously the Merchant lets you go into your market and get Infinite Hourglass and make everything have endurance. You get an additional Zen Initiation, which gets something killer. You can go and get Aled Mountbreaker. And if somebody's like Tony G or Platypus King is playing a bunch of relics and stuff, you go in and you get Bury the Past. And it is phenomenal. I mean, just everything about it is fun to play. Everything about it is good in the current matchups on the ladder. And if your opponent misses one answer, the game's just over. You have answers to their cards. If they can't answer yours, it is, night, lights out. That's another win in the bag.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was playing this deck most of my stream today. I also talked, chatted with Paradox a little bit on Discord throughout the day about the deck. My question was hey, why only one Obelisk main and one Aled in the market? Shouldn't the Obelisk be in the market? Why? Just asking about those two cards specifically. I thought it was weird. And he said, honestly, didn't have 4 Aleds. He only had the 1. He was low on Shiftstone, so he only played 1. He wanted to play 4, it sounds like, instead of Worldbearer Behemoth. If he had 4 Mountbreakers, he would have been playing those in the main with 1 Behemoth in the side, is what it sounded like. I might be inferring some of that information, but that's what it sounded like he was thinking. And obviously, Obelisk, it's not super strong in the meta right now, but he could see, putting a second one in the market. But yeah, no, I went 15-5 with this list on the stream today, and I played against a lot of primal-based decks that had lots of permafrost, and I had to permafrost my teacher. The next turn, I would go get my Hourglass and play it the following turn. Boom, finally get my disciplinary weights.
Yeah, I mean, it's... I can't speak highly enough of all of the decks that made the top. I'm not a fan of TJP, if I didn't make that clear earlier. Not because I think it's a bad deck or I think it's a problem for the meta. I just am garbage at playing it. But the Praxis, both of the Praxis decks were fantastic. And there's a soft spot in my heart for the removal pile that's floating around, the Fire Justice Shadow one. I like the suite of cards. That was the first style of deck that I got to Masters with. Who doesn't love Ikaria, right? And then the Rod decks are fun. The Rod deck is fun for me when I'm in a really good mood, because when it works and when it fires off, it is just a blast to crush your opponent. You get some really big numbers. The problem is that unless you get a perfect setup or you can read everything that's going on, it just falls flat and you get in a lot of trouble very quickly because you don't have the units to put your Rod on. You don't have the answers if they're playing something with a bunch of aggro. If you miss, it misses very hard and very wide.
Yes, it does. It feels embarrassing to play either Divining Rod or Answer the Call in Brick. Or the classic Answer the Call, hit Alluring Ember and the Rod, and nothing else. Getting a 4/4 hasty flyer, charge flyer for, 6 power is not really a winning line.
No, never. But when it works and you get Alluring Ember and then you spike out 2 or 3 more units, It is, it's a whole different ball game, obviously. So you can get a 0, you can get 100. There's some numbers in between, obviously, but that tends to be how it goes. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. So.
Indeed, yeah. I think the Answer the Rod stuff is fun, sure.
All right, so we talked about a couple of the highlight decks for us, or I did, and you kind of chimed in as you came back in. The meta, what is this going to do for those who have not finished climbing to Masters yet, or even those who are trying some kind of janky stuff in Masters? Outside of seeing time everywhere, does the meta slow down? Is it going to speed up? We had a week there where there was a lot of Berserk decks. There was a lot of Rakano or Skycrag, but I don't think that's going to be the case now. But what about you, man?
Well, in my experience today, I didn't really play much weekend, but today, it was like all for a lot of the TJP Alessi Berserk deck. And there was a lot of a decent amount of the Praxis mid-range and a lot of Primal X based decks, which I don't think most Primal decks are well positioned right now. Like if you're trying to go like mid-range control type of thing, like if you're trying to play like a Feln variation, which I surprisingly played against a lot of that today, and a little bit of Scream too, but like Permafrost is just not in a good place right now, and feel like a lot of the removal that you have access to when you're playing, in that combination, not necessarily well positioned. In saying that, like, Annihilate, I think, is better positioned now than it has been for a while, but it doesn't hit a lot of the TJP stuff, If you're playing against the mid-range deck, it basically hits nothing. But the Alessi version that won the tournament targets, but not really. Like Ryogon's Disciple, and then like a couple of units with Aegis and Crownwatch Press King, but like that's not a great target. Like you're losing value every turn that you're trying to use those spells against that deck. I'm not sure what deck you would want to play to try to combat this meta. I mean, I guess the removal pile, the Fire Just a Shadow removal pile deck, probably is in a terrible place right now.
Yeah, it's not. If you know how to prioritize targets, the removal pile is good. I mean, removal pile has been good since its inception, as long as you know how to prioritize. Like if you target a teacher and you don't have other removal in your hand, like you're probably making a mistake, because this deck does not draw a lot of extra cards, so weights don't really matter. If you are fighting one of those like 4-faction mask decks and you burn your boar when the first mask hits, you're probably going to have a bad time. But if you slow down, you pay attention, that's a great deck to be on. One of the things that I saw
matters a little bit more than you think it does, but
I have not had a problem with it when I was playing the removal pile. I'll put it that way. Like I've let it come through, and every time I've let it come through, it hasn't been that much of an issue for me.
You got Call the Deck, you got Quarry, you got Merchants, you got Rise to the Challenge.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I've let it come, when you can prioritize and you let it go through, sometimes if you're in the right place, it doesn't matter at that point. But yeah, you're right. There are cards that do matter, but you're not playing like primal cards where you're drawing 2, 3, 4 cards or whatever, and you're trying to get somewhere. Something that I saw a lot of on Saturday during the tournament and shortly after, and then a bunch on Sunday when I was playing early morning, are these shadow variants that are playing Azendale's Gift. I guess the reasoning behind that is like Azendale's Gift locks down your market. Like if you don't have an answer for it immediately, you lose all the cards in your market. You lose essentially the use of any of your merchants, because you won't have any cards in hand to trade out. Like you just have to play and play. That's the only logic behind it. I didn't lose to it very many times, just because by the time they got it down, I was on the Praxis mid range, so I did get hit by it, and then I drop a World Bear Behemoth that's got like 7 attack, and it's obviously got Overwhelm, and it brings back 2 or 3 of the Dawnwalkers. So it didn't matter to me in that deck, but if you're playing stuff that that relies on having the ability to trade out cards, you'll probably be in a worse place. Like the what was that deck called that you played on Saturday Summit on Friday? The Merchants Are Broken card. The
and the scatter shot
combo nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah, the 4-faction merchant scattershot combo deck. Yeah, my friend Brian or whatever posted it on Eternal Warcry and Twitter, and that's a really fun deck. It's not a tournament deck. My friend Grizzly took it to the ETS this weekend. He beat Flash with it round 1. He got very lucky to do so, but yeah, he just played removal pile, and he went 1-3 and dropped. So, that deck is good on ladder. Or it might be overstating it. It's really fun, and it is actually really redundant. It is powerful, and it's fairly consistent in assembling the combo. Which, if you don't know, like the whole point of the deck is to reduce the cost of recurring nightmare to 0 by journey guides and quarries and what's the bird? The 4-drop.
Yeah, the Pterodax or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Avasaurus could react. I don't remember the card's name, but either way, the 4 cost 3/3 that puts a card back on top and reduces its cost by 2. You use those cards to reduce the cost of recurring nightmare to 0. Then you play Scattershot Yeti, which whenever it or another unit enters the battlefield on your side, they deal 1 damage to the opponent, and therefore you play your 0 cost recurring nightmare. It pings the opponent for 1, infiltrate triggers, puts it back in your hand, rinse, repeat till they're dead. If they don't have a piece of removal for either one of those threats, over.
Yeah, so, and it like you said, it sounds like an impossible combo to put together, but with the advent of merchants, it is not impossible because you have a piece of the combo you have all the pieces of your combo in your market, and you draw some of the cards that you need, and the cards that you don't or that you have multiples of, you just market them out because you're playing a bunch of power, you're playing a bunch of merchants, and you just dig down and you grab what you need. Because most of the pieces outside of like Iceberg Scattershot are multi-faction. So like Recurring Nightmare is multi-faction. That dinosaur that recurs or that places it back on top and reduces the cost, it's multi-faction. I mean, there's just so much good stuff.
Yeah. Like, and it plays something like 44 power to try to like abuse the redraw rule to like try to guarantee you have some number of the pieces that you need in that opening hand. But again, it's fun, and it's a lot better on ladder than it is in a tournament setting, because in a tournament setting, in these tournaments, you get to see your opponent's deck list, so you get to look at them like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing. I know what matters. All I have to do is make sure I keep a torch for a Scattershot, and I'm good. Whereas when you're on ladder, your opponent's like, what the heck is this 4-faction merchant? What are they doing? Like, there's a higher chance that your opponent just doesn't know what you're doing or know what matters in the matchup, and that's how you get them.
Yep. So, in line with the fun decks, we had the End of Hostilities event over the weekend. I think if it's not already done, it finishes very soon, yeah?
It finished last night around like 8 p.m. Pacific.
I obviously haven't been able to spool up my game today, but like, again, first day at work, all that good stuff. But what a fun event, man. They've done it before. Every unit you play, it's...
Every spell you play summons a unit.
Yeah, every spell you play summons a unit. So there's a gauntlet boss that does that. They've done this event in the past. Obviously, the first thing that many players do is try and find a way to get Scourge of Frostholm from the void onto the field, usually by way of not Touch of Umbran. What's the 5 cost one?
Grasping at Shadows.
Grasping at Shadows. So obviously that deck floated around a lot. If you weren't able to,
what I played, and that's mostly what I played against.
Yeah. So obviously a great deck for this. If your opponent can't play spells, 2/3 of their deck in most cases is in bad shape. But there's some other cool decks. I saw you played a few that were pretty interesting. What do you think about having this event come back? It obviously was popular enough the first time that they brought it back. Should they do it again in the future? do they maybe need to, like, I don't ever want to say the ban word, but like maybe they pull out the Scourge of Frostholm and so you don't see that in every deck for the first day and a half.
I mean, you still have to jump through a lot of hoops to accomplish that. I definitely don't think they should get rid of that card if they do it again, but I definitely think they should do the event again. It was fun. I'm usually kind of a lot busier on the weekends in my non-digital life, so I never get to fully utilize the events, it seems, but I think I don't even know if I did all 5. I did 5. Usually I would do, like, if I had choice, so to speak, I would do 10, 12, 15, 30 runs at 2,000 gold. Like, you're just printing money. Getting free booster packs, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a blast. I played 4 runs because, again, didn't have my stuff, obviously. Very busy on the weekends as well. Bigger family, new place. But, I had a blast with it. I copied a couple of your decks and had fun. Obviously, played 1 run with the Scourge of Frostholm deck or decks style that was floating around. So, yeah, I agree. I think they should do this. And I think if they turned on a rotation of like permanent events that just had like the gauntlet boss powers, it would be a blast. There's a lot of stuff like the one every unit you play gets a random weapon. Like, that's just cool because it's kind of that grab bag. Obviously, every spell you play generates a unit. That's cool. There is one of my favorite gauntlet bosses that if I knew it was coming, I'd obviously build a deck to prepare for it. But that the one where you start with Calderan Cradle in your hand. So every time you play 5 spells, you get a dragon. Like, there's so many fun gauntlet bosses that being able to play against your friends or play against the community in those style games, I would burn it. If they want to find a way to burn up my gold outside of the chapter event every month, that would be the way to do it because I would play in all of those all the time. And it's just a lot of fun.
I agree.
Did you have your headphones in the refrigerator?
Yeah, I mean, I assumed they overheated, and that didn't do anything.
Oh, man.
Pretty sure there's a warranty on these, but...
Yeah, Turtle Beach has some good warranties. Turtle Beach, if you're listening, obviously Platypus King is a big fan, very heartbroken that his headphones aren't working currently.
Didn't even last a month! Just saying. Got these about a month ago, and they're not working now. That's all I'm saying.
All right, so end of hostilities. No joke. Left me on my own. I had to like improvise and talk and stuff. I don't know how to talk well.
Couldn't they just fall apart like during the stream and not during the podcast? Come on, let's just be reasonable. Anyways.
All right, so end of hostilities event. I give it a 1 out of 1.
Yeah, 1 out of 1. Best event ever.
Fantastic. So one of the last things that we want to talk about on the Eternal side is, Platypus King and I, obviously Platypus is one of his main sources of income is interacting with the community on his stream, on Twitter, in the Discord, on his Discord or the Eternal Discord, and of course on Reddit. And Reddit is one of the places that I like because one, it's kind of a more casual place. You can go and you can post on your own time. So you can post your opinion and somebody can come in and tell you you're an idiot or that they love you. But I like to go, repeatedly. I like to go on the Eternal subreddit on the weekends and just like sort by top of the week. And usually there's like one that stands out to me. But this week there were 3 that I thought were really cool. The first one is a post from Ocean Blue 1234. Nice generic internet name, very reminiscent of the AOL Instant Messenger days. But
my first AIM name was Heatwave HXC. And it was all, capital, lower, upper, lower, because Heatwave was my e-wrestling username on all the e-wrestling forums that I was a part of.
I think mine was like Dragon Flame or something. I mean, I was like 7 years old. And so, but then, shortly after that, I picked up the Mantid Man or some variation thereof, and that's what I've been ever since. So I don't have very many embarrassing usernames from those days.
I came up with the Platypus King in high school. A song that a friend and I wrote about an evil dictator, which was the Platypus King. Because dictators and kings, I don't know.
Oh, of course. All right. So anyway, so Ocean Blue 1234's post was titled, "Regardless of our likes and dislikes, can we all agree on one thing?" And it goes on to say that whoever's responsible for the art in set 4 has really stepped up their game. I feel like there's something for everyone in terms of visual preferences. Geomar, the sheep girl, who we've talked about a few times, and Kenna, and Kenna are some of my favorites so far. I hope Direwolf Digital keeps the people who are responsible for this art on for a while. Great work. And the whole, like all of the comments that I read through were just praising the art. There is, Substitute, which we talked about during the preview series with the little dinosaur perched with the owls. There's so many great pieces in this. I have to agree with Ocean that, we've been kind of frustrated with some of the art in the past. Oh, this is dumb. I hope they redo it. The voice acting in the game was great. And then there were some cards that were just terrible. But in this set, I would have to agree with this poster on Reddit that the art is just awesome. There's so many good looking cards. And I feel like they've stepped up their premium game as well. Like it used to just be kind of a shine or something like that, except for on the legendaries. But even like the common and uncommon premiums now, they have like swirls and waves and just this really cool kind of aesthetic to it. And I'm very happy with what Direwolf has done and their art direction and the artists that they commissioned to do these pieces.
Yeah, they're doing good. I like the premiums have definitely gotten better. Waiting for the artist names to somehow be visible.
That's something I would really like to see, even if it was on Direwolf's website. Maybe they're working on their own library of card art and stuff. Who knows? But I would love that as well, because I would, I'd love to go to their pages and like I would buy some of these card arts in like extended prints and stuff like that to put up in, my office that I'm putting together. Pay some kind of licensing fee to have some mouse pads or something made. There's some really cool stuff. And Direwolf is they know that their art is getting better because it seems like every other week we get a new background, like an extended version of a lot of this art. Wallpapers. Everybody has said a lot of good stuff. There's not been a ton of negative, even in this thread. Like there's not a lot of trolling, which is rare, not just for this community, but for every community. Like, you sort by controversial, and there's not a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is, what are you talking about? This art's terrible." Like, nah, everybody seems to be kind of unified in this, that it's very good. So, obviously, Ocean Blue, bringing that kind of the forefront and getting some traction. Everybody else who agreed with him, Direwolf, we love what you're doing. So keep it up on the artwork side.
I have one friend in real life who does not like the art style of this game. That's it. I tell him, you're silly.
Well, and even if he doesn't like it, maybe check it out every once in a while and look, because we got cards like Svetya, and there's a few cards in that same kind of style in this set that are that more kind of oil painting, washed out, a little more like realistic looking. Like they've got some really good stuff, and I expect that'll just keep growing and keep morphing to fit different styles. So you'll be able to have more cards that you think look cool.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'd buy a print to put on the wall. I found some of the art arts on some random, I found some of the artists' DeviantArt pages for extensive searching every now and again, but not very often, and not always, still like not in high resolution all the time. So
yeah, if you do some, if you go to like Eternal Warcry or one of those, and you get like the good resolution picture, and you trim it out, you can like reverse image search and find some of the artists on DeviantArt, or I think I found one of them on like Instagram. So you can find it, but you have to hunt. I would love for them to just release the names of the artists, even if it was just a list. You don't have to show me the card; just give me a list of the card names, and put the artist name next to it because I know how to use the Control F on my keyboard.
Sure, for sure. I agree. That'd be sweet.
So the next one, the Useless God posted on, and I'm not going to read this whole one because it's a little bit longer, but it's something that I thought that I noticed, and especially once I got through, I thought that I noticed it, and I stopped playing as much for a little while because I was moving, so maybe I'm just misremembering or whatever. But there was a lot of comments on this as well. So Useless God made a post last week that said the Gauntlet and Forge has substantially increased in difficulty. And while I don't agree with that completely, I do feel like once you get through the Forge and get through the Gauntlet, like the top end to farm it is a lot more difficult. I had a lot of luck in Gauntlet with the Big Rock and No Bracers deck. I talked about it last week and the week before, and I still talk about it. If you're newer to the game or you haven't finished your Gauntlet, play that deck because it crushes the first or all the rank up missions. I lost like twice with it, but now it is tough, man. The AI is stronger. The decks are tuned and stronger. I don't know if it's just the cards or somebody went in and did some more design work, but I feel like I agree with Useless God, especially on the tail end, that once you're maxed out, it is difficult to farm those formats now.
Yeah, I still haven't done my ranking up stuff, but the handful of times that I go through it, there was one time before the new set came out even, it's like that last week or two, I was trying that Holy Diver deck, that little combo deck where you give your Westwind Herald Overwhelm and Killer and have a mirror image in the Void, and you just make essentially, for every unit that they had that you can kill with Killer and Overwhelm over, you get a new copy of that Herald with all the abilities and stuff. And there was a player that was late to, I was switching decks from that deck, and he's like, what? I want to see that deck. Okay, well, I'll just go to Gauntlet real quick and do it. It was like I lost about 7 times before I was able to accomplish that, just that combo against the AI because they were just much stronger and better than I remembered them being.
Yeah, and I don't know about Platypus, but I'm not anybody at Direwolf or on the Eternal team. I'm not complaining about it at all. It's just a point that got brought up, and I agree with it. I think it's probably a good thing. It sharpens skills more. You have to try harder. You can't just go in and smash a deck together. So I'm not complaining about it at all. It is just something. Maybe there was a patch note about it and I missed it, but I wanted it to be more visible. It got a decent amount of traction on Reddit. I think somebody linked to it on Twitter like Thursday last week as well. But anybody who's listening, just know that Gauntlet and Forge, Forge being the kind of mini draft against AI, they get substantially more difficult than they have been in the past. So you have to pay attention. You can't just smash something together and go in and think you're going to be able to grind out, 50,000 gold over the course of a couple of weeks. Like, you can still do it, but it's a lot more difficult than it has been.
Absolutely, for sure. I agree with that.
All right. And the last thing is, it's something that it happens in this digital age that we live in. There's data mining and leaks and mistakes get made or whatever, but we have what could possibly be the next card back, but definitely, I would say not definitely, but very likely a card back in the future, submitted by King Jack, and not obviously, coincidentally, the card back is this cool like pistol cylinder or revolver cylinder with a single bullet in it, and it's got kind of this like rustic look to it. It doesn't show what the animation would be. It's just a still frame. A couple of the comments are saying that it got leaked out like a month or so ago as well, and it got pulled down. But it's something very cool. It would be fantastic. It's we keep talking about the card backs every month when they come out, every new chapter, they get better and better. And if this one does animation-wise what I think it does, which is going to be like a spin, that the cylinder kind of rotates because it's got one bullet in it. If that spins or just rotates even slowly, sold. Like 1 of 1, best card back ever. It is phenomenal. Obviously, homage to Jack and the Gunslingers.
One of the neat things about this, if you look at it, the normal, the default card back, it has that kind of almost horn-looking shape, silver shape on it. Well, the inverse, the wood portion that's cut out of the metal around the cylinder, kind of looks like that shape. A little bit different, but it looks very, very similar to that. So I think that's neat. That's my favorite part of it.
Yeah, it's little nuances, and you can even see anybody who's watching live. You can look up at the top of the banner above us. The original card back is kind of back there, and you can see that. See what Platypus is talking about. But this is cool, and it kind of falls in line with that first post. The art and the effort that they're putting into the UI and things like that, like it's just visually, it's getting better and better. And stay on this right path. Get your full release on, and it's awesome.
Only good things can come from here. Game's just getting better and better every time they put out more content.
Yep. So, we talked about the ETS like we always do. We talked about how that could affect the meta and to be prepared for time cards because there's going to be a lot of them. End of hostilities. If you didn't get to enjoy it, pay attention for the next time it gets announced because that's a great event or a great style event that may not be called End of Hostilities in the future. But pay attention to those fun special events. They're always a great way to get cards. And then we talked about some of the stuff from the community. The praise for the art, the Gauntlet and Forge decks, possibly stronger, the AI getting smarter, and then this leaked or potentially leaked card back that could be coming very soon. I give that my approval. It's a fantastic card back. So yesterday we didn't get to do the podcast. We had Platypus had some stuff. I had some stuff going on. And then there was an event that we're both pretty big wrestling fans. Sports entertainment. I apologize, not wrestling. Sports entertainment. But one of the pay-per-views, the monthly pay-per-view,
Well, my tongue to do that. It wasn't worth it.
The monthly pay-per-view from the WWE was this month's was Extreme Rules. And first of all, I was sports entertained. I enjoyed a lot of the matches. There were some that were kind of humdrum, but I was I was sports entertained. The problem I've got with it is there was essentially only like one, maybe two actual Extreme Rules matches.
It was a very named pay-per-view.
Yeah. WWE presents Regular Rules pay-per-view.
Yeah. And then like the women's match that was Extreme Rules, which what's wrong with just calling that a hardcore match? I don't know, but they barely used the weapons.
Yeah. I mean, there was a solid beat down at the end. Watching 5'0" Alexa Bliss swing a steel chair around and DDT Nia Jax, like the largest women's superstar, into a steel chair was pretty good. But the rest of the match was kind of Ronda Rousey coming in and Mickie James beating the pants off.
I was like, we know where this is going.
Yeah. She was quote unquote banned. She had her outside of kayfabe. She got her induction into the UFC Hall of Fame. And she's promoting that movie that she's in. So I get it. Like continuity for story. But she came in. But Mickie James, one of the all-stars that's been there for a long time, she got to beat the crap out of Ronda with the kendo stick. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I like Alexa Bliss. I'm happy with the result of that match.
Yeah, some of the matches I'm not happy about. Like, I don't want to spoil too much. I'm not happy with how, how the Asuka match. Fair. I'm not happy that Asuka. I would have had a problem with Asuka losing necessarily if they had done it right. The way that she lost, like 3 for 3, freaking Ellsworth, like is the distraction, and Carmella, my son's favorite female wrestler, like just capitalizes in the worst way. Like NXT Asuka, I read a great comment on Reddit right after that match happened. NXT Asuka would have skinned Ellsworth alive and made a briefcase to beat Carmella to death with. And
that is dark.
This Asuka I mean, she just got played. Like, I get it. They want to play into like she's so mad at Ellsworth. He keeps running away, so she wanted to beat the crap out of him. Whatever. Ugh. Braun Strowman throwing KO off the top of the cage. That was sick.
Yeah. Let's go back to this Asuka thing, man. As soon as I didn't watch I missed the last week or two of SmackDown and stuff, and so we get to the thing. Here's the video package, and they're like shark cage above them. I'm like, I'm never a fan of suspending one of these performers in a shark cage above the ring. I'm like, this is silly. Whatever. Okay, fine. The kids love it, I'm sure. All right, so we get to that part. They put him in the cage. They lift it up. You can touch the cage from the ring. It's like barely up there. I'm like, okay, so clearly there's something stupid that's gonna happen. What's going on here? This is so lame.
Yes, he's dropping weapons. I mean, that's in character for him. I thought for sure with how low it was that Asuka was going to like jump off of the rope and swing from the cage, freak Ellsworth out, and then like, backflip frog splash onto Carmella. Like that would have been awesome. Instead,
oh my God.
Instead, he dropped weapons for the first like 5 minutes of the match. He dropped some mace and he dropped like a chain and stuff like that.
Lock.
Yeah, and then he picked his lock and he fell out of the cage, which was hilarious.
And somehow just happened to get
the clearly visible safety harness.
Yeah, it just happened to be, we'll just say, so it's even just a little bit cooler, that his ankle just happened to have gotten handcuffed to the cage somehow. Not what it was. But, like, okay, this is... Oh my God.
Yeah,
both of these matches, both of these pay-per-view Asuka Carmella matches make me want to unsubscribe from the network. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't think anybody from WWE will even see this, but yeah, I agree. Like
they ruined
the pay-per-view the pay-per-view as a whole was passable, enjoyable in some of the matches, but whoever writes the fighting has really shortchanged. I'm trying to choose my words because I do get like in my day-to-day, I'm a little more colorful. They have shortchanged a lot of these superstars, especially with where they came from. Like I was a big fan of the Asuka streak. I actually was a fan of Charlotte Flair breaking the streak, but now Charlotte is not even in anything. And
at least it was a good match. I don't think Charlotte was the right person to beat her. However, it was a good match. It was a great match.
But
and the first Carmella match, at Money in the Bank was okay until the stupid Ellsworth thing that happened. It was okay. It could have been a little bit more action-packed or something, a little bit more high-octane leading up to that moment. But as soon as that happened, I'm like, all right, well, she's losing because there's somebody dressed like her on the ring apron. Who cares?
Yeah. Hopefully they figure something out because I don't want her to get relegated to this like area of obscurity. You saw it happen. Like, luckily Becky Lynch is making a comeback. She wasn't at the pay-per-view, but she's like they're bringing her back up, which is good because she was obscure for the last like 6 months. You barely saw her.
And Curtis Axel, his push kind of died when they got rid of Axelmania. So, but hey, B team.
That's right, the B team. I love Matt Hardy. I love Bray Wyatt, but the B team winning, that was awesome.
Yesterday in my Twitch chat, I started the pay-per-view like an hour after it started or something. You were watching it live, so that last little bit of my stream, that match happened in real time, and you said something in my chat about, I forgot that Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas are real-life brothers. And so when the match started, and I remembered you saying that, I was like, wait, they are brothers. Maybe they're going to lose the titles. Maybe he's dropping the titles to his brother here, giving that like feel-good moment. And maybe I feel like Bray Wyatt probably really pushed for that moment to happen. Like I feel like it was him politicking that got that moment potentially. That or they're just like, well, these guys have nothing going on. Let's try to get them over here by putting some belts on them. But either way,
they had to do something with Bo and Curtis. Like I get that, and also like Bray's been struggling with injuries. Matt is trying to kind of finish out his career and stuff like that. So there was obviously some work going on behind the scenes because like Jeff Hardy lost his title to Shinsuke in the shortest pay-per-view match in history with the most garbage ending.
My girlfriend was pissed that it happened. She's like, what was even the point of this?
Yeah. And like Randy Orton coming out, like they could have started a feud with Shinsuke. Maybe they will. I don't know. Shannon likes Randy Orton, so I guess that's going well for her because he's back. He'll be back on screen maybe. But so Jeff lost his match. Matt lost his match. Maybe we'll get Woken Matt and Brother Nero together as like a tag
officially.
Team. That would be
instead of Matt awkwardly referring to him as Brother Nero.
Yeah,
being just like, I'm a person. I'm from the country. I am pseudo redneck.
The Braun Strowman and Kevin Owens match, that one was fun. I despise Kevin Owens' character. I don't think he has anything going for him, but as a performer, so his character is very like afraid of Braun Strowman and complains all the time and all this kind of stuff for anybody who's not watching. But he himself, he himself is not a coward, or he just doesn't care about himself because he has yet to turn down like any stunt I think the writing team has put in front of him. He got tossed off like a 20-foot ladder. He got tossed off the top of the cage onto an announcer's table. I don't think he was in the porta potty when Braun Strowman bull rushed it off of the stage. I think that was kind of like a camera trick set up. Like he got out, then got back in and rolled out.
That looked painful.
Yeah, but he has done
every time I saw that clip, I was like, how do they do this safely if he's actually in there? Like this is risky stuff.
I don't know, but he has proven time and time again that he is not afraid to do stuff that looks and or is very dangerous. So I give him a lot of respect for that. And he professes his love for Shania Twain like every 2 days on Twitter, which is hilarious.
What was your favorite match on the card?
My favorite match, leading up to it, I'm a big fan of the Bludgeon Brothers. And I like Daniel Bryan and Kane. That match was straight. Like, I like the idea of them like attacking him beforehand. It kind of falls into the character, but the way they did that match was just like garbage.
I mean, it's not like, Braun Strowman just a couple months ago was not allowed to have a tag team match because he didn't have a partner, but here's Daniel Bryan, guy with the history of concussions, going out there against some people that assaulted him earlier and broke his partner's ankle. Okay. By himself, alone, but Braun Strowman couldn't. A guy who's the size of 5 people put together and with Mount, I don't know, what was it? Mount Everest as his parent, I don't know. He can't do it alone, but this guy, put the goat out there. He's fine.
But so I was looking forward to that match. I'm frustrated with how they did it and how it turned out. So I watched like pieces of it again this morning. Originally, I was not a fan of the Iron Man match, but I think it was because of the crowd, like the crowd having the clock over more than the wrestlers. But going back and watching like the highlights and stuff again, that one was probably way up there. New Day was also, I think they were even pre-show, but that New Day Sanity match was stellar. I mean, there was just like good stuff, big hits, high flying.
I just saw the one stunt, and that was pretty neat.
The double stomp or the double crush from the top,
with the dude jumping up off of their shoulders and stuff.
And I also feel like the first half of both the Roman Reigns Bobby Lashley match and the AJ Rusev match, both of those were kind of trash. I think the Roman Reigns Lashley match finished really well.
I mean, the right guy won.
Yeah, I like Bobby Lashley. So
it's like if Roman wins this, what are they doing? Why'd they bring Lashley back? What they would have officially put the final nail in Lashley's coffin. Like, he's not super over with the crowd or anything. Also, I thought it was kind of weird that he couldn't hold Roman up for like 5 minutes. It was like he barely made it to 5 seconds. It's like, oh no, I'm gonna fall. I better just slam him down. His fancy power slam thing or whatever it is, the suplex.
Yeah, that vertical suplex. I think he actually got hurt with that big bump he did when he flew over the top rope. So
yeah, it looked a little
he landed really weird. But to answer your question, I think during watching it, probably the Braun Strowman Kevin Owens match, just because there's a lot of like cool stuff. Like the handcuff gimmick was great. The obviously throwing him off the top of the cage was great. And then going back and watching, I would say probably the Iron Man match was my favorite. I did really enjoy the Rusev AJ Styles match. I actually thought that they might have Rusev win on Rusev Day, but I'm not a fan of how it ended. I don't want them to break up Rusev and Aiden English.
They've been planting seeds for that for a minute.
I know they have. They've done it a few times. I'm not a fan of that if it happens, but
up with Aiden's outfit.
Yeah, it was a little weird, kind of like punk rock, 80s punk rock, like spray painted. It was weird.
Yeah, it's out of nowhere. It's like, no, you rebranded the guy too soon. They're not breaking up till Tuesday night. Rebrand him next Tuesday, not tonight. Whatever. But
yeah. What about you? What was your match of the night?
Iron Man match. I was surprised with how much hate the match had online, but I think a large portion of the hate was from two things. A, crowd counting down every minute, like it was a Royal Rumble and doing that whole thing, and B, the fact that it was not. Well, obviously we're going into sudden death. It's a tie. It's always been that way ever since Bret Hart and whatever, like 20 years ago or something. Like so when Kurt Angle comes out there with Dolph Ziggler just immediately trying to leave, and then Kurt Angle comes out, I think these people want to see a real finish, not a tie. Let's go ahead and start that bell again. Like, what do you mean? Of course that's what should happen. Why was this even a question? And then with, and I thought Seth was actually going to pull it out there at the very last second of the real match, and then when he took a minute to crawl over to Dolph, I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm fine with this, because I wanted Dolph to win, first off. But second, there's just like there was a little bit of a, obviously Seth should just let McIntyre beat him up there if he's actually running in. Like, ignore that guy and focus on Dolph, because if that guy touches you, you just won the belt.
Yeah, well, that's
under those rules, but who knows? Because WWE does whatever they want to do with the rules.
It was Extreme Rules. What are you talking about? But no, my complaint with the Iron Man match is it's not even with the choreography or anything like that. Like Drew coming out, he did exactly what his character would. He came out, he sacrificed some points for Dolph, beat the crap out of Seth, but gave Dolph Ziggler the ability to come in and like rack up points. Yeah, exactly. And then coming in again at right before the sudden death. Like, that's his character. I get it. They're heels. They have no problem with it, whatever. The problem I've got is actually with the ref. The ref is supposed to be all the moves and all the kayfabe stuff with the wrestlers. Like, they get a pass because they are literally getting their asses kicked. Like, a lot of those moves, regardless of what you say, wrestling is scripted. It's not fake. Like, that stuff hurts. There's damage that's being done. Those guys get a pass sometimes when they make mistakes. The ref, his job is to be looking in the right direction at the right time. That's his only job. And he watched Drew come into the ring. His eyes tracked with him, and he watched him beat the crap out of Seth. And then they let the match go. So, like, the ref killed that for me in kayfabe.
I was confused with the they officially gave. I think the ref messed up. I think they officially gave Seth a win in the Iron Man match when Drew first beat him up. And then Drew beat him up some more after that for like another minute. Like, but they already gave. Shouldn't that have been a second DQ? I think the ref just like called that spot too soon or something. Because I was confused because
he botched two or three times.
Yeah, because when Dolph then like got a pin finally, and like they updated Dolph's record, I was like, okay, I guess Seth didn't get an extra pin, an extra win there. But also, I think Dolph should have just went like they should have literally just did so Dolph goes and gets his first pin there after the DQ. I guess it wasn't his first, but you know what I mean. He gets his pin there. I think he immediately should just got back on top of him. Don't do nothing else. Just pin him again. Like, I think that would fit Dolph's character too. I think that would have been a neat thing to like just like look. Yeah, McIntyre just lost him a point, but guess what? He literally just went pin. Okay, got my 3 count. Pin. Got my 3 count. Like, they even go for a third one, and then Seth kicks out. It's like, no, I can't let this happen. I think that would have been neat. But either way, that was my match of the night.
Yeah.
Partially biased because I love Dolph, and Dolph actually getting to shine a little bit there. That was
he's getting to do some stuff. You know, we got to see a lot of his moves. You and I were both kind of lamenting about Dolph coming out with Drew McIntyre when that first all came around, and then even when Dolph won the IC, we were like, oh, this is just to boost Drew some more. But no, they're actually taking Dolph on a little bit of a ride, which is great. I'm pumped about that. I think he's great. He's got talent. He's got charisma. You know, he's a guy that you can love to hate, and he embraces that. I mean, his handle on Twitter is freaking heel Ziggler. Like, come on.
Yeah, he's good. He's good at the heel. I wish he would have stuck with the no theme song gimmick, that whole thing. That's actually what won me over on Dolph last year. but that's fine. But yeah, I hope they go the long-term booking route with this whole like affiliation with Drew McIntyre, and not just like they are with the Bayley and Sasha thing. They took 6 months to get to the point where they're officially not friends, but now they're going to count. Whatever. Like, they're taking a long, slow burn to get to that point. I want them to let Drew and Dolph be friends for a very long time and let it slowly just throw in some nuance there of them starting to like butt heads, just very subtle nuances. Before they finally break it up. Maybe even save it for like WrestleMania. Like, build it all the way up to WrestleMania.
Oh man, that'd be great. That's something that I do, and I know we're probably talking about wrestling too much. Probably talking about wrestling too much, so we'll cut it here in a couple of minutes. Yeah. But my biggest problem with the WWE universe, which is what the WWE calls their fans, my biggest problem with them is a lot of them are cross promotion fans. Like they obviously they like all the WWE stuff, NXT. But then they also, a lot of them are into the Japanese circuit, which is fine. The Japanese stuff is great. Kenny Omega is fantastic. And
Joe's going to the Jericho Cruise.
Oh gosh, wouldn't that be great? The fans, a lot of the fans, the outspoken ones, they get so mad when these feuds don't get resolved quickly. But then they praise the Japan circuit for having a feud that lasts like a year or 2 years without any resolution and then culminates in this giant match. So it's very like hypocritical, and I'm very frustrated with everybody who's so outspoken about like, why didn't you finish this up? It's been going on for like a whole 3 weeks. Why don't you just have them kick each other's butt and be done? Like, nah, drag it out. Give me some meat. That's why I like the wrestling, as the stories.
Meanwhile, over at New Japan Pro Wrestling, here we are, year 7 of the Golden Lovers, still nuanced out. Like, man, did you see what the main event is for the Jericho Cruise?
I did not. What was the announcement for it?
It's a 3-on-3 tag team match. It's Kenny Omega, Marty Scurll, and Cody Rhodes versus Young Bucks and Chris Jericho.
Oh, that's awesome. I was a big fan of Dusty Rhodes as a kid growing up. Mm-hmm. I love you know this very well, because this is one of the things that we kind of talked about outside of Eternal was like Goldust is fantastic. Cody Rhodes. Yeah. Cody Rhodes is, I don't know the whole story. I haven't done like the research. I don't know why he left WWE, but his character, and I mean, like I do know some of it, but there's got to be other stuff. His character in New Japan Pro Wrestling, that American Nightmare, like the super cocky heel, comes out, gives the ring off, has his custom theme song, homage to his dad, Dusty Rhodes. Like, he is so great. He is so fun to watch. He always has been, even though he's been just crapped on with storylines and stuff like that when he was with WWE. He's fantastic. So if you haven't given New Japan a chance and you're a wrestling fan, just go online and find some of the American Nightmare matches or even the promos that he's cut, because they're great. And Jericho obviously is with New Japan right now. Kenny Omega is fantastic if you want to see just some real, like, some power and entertainment charisma. He's just awesome.
Like, it was announced that, is it Ring of Honor or is it New Japan? They're doing they booked Madison Square Garden for next year for the G1 Classic, I think it is.
Yeah.
And so people are now talking about, like, I don't know, I don't think Daniel Bryan's re-upped his contract yet or whatever. But anyways, either way, they were talking about, can this indie show sell out a Garden if they were to have Omega versus Bryan? That'd be interesting.
Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know, those are both like the goats of their current greatest promotion. Yeah, the greatest of all time of their promotion.
And Daniel Bryan also looks like a goat.
Yeah, that too. Daniel Bryan obviously recovered from a very serious injury and came back in, but he was fantastic beforehand. Kenny Omega he is such a technical wrestler. He's so good, and he's got charisma. Like, he is he's a 9.5 out of 10, which is super rare, like something you haven't seen in 20 years.
Yeah, I think he's on top right now in the entire thing. Like, I just want to see more.
One of the best in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, so the first time I actually watched Cody wrestle post WWE was I'd have even been a year ago already, but either way, I was at some friend invited me to a party. A friend that I didn't know very well invited me to a party. Somebody's house I didn't know very well. All these people I don't know we're hanging out, having a couple of adult beverages, whatever, right? And somebody has the TV on, just like on, some like channel 4 that turns on to the local news at 11 o'clock or whatever. That channel, midnight comes around, Ring of Honor comes on. There's Cody Rhodes. I'm like, what is going on? I was just so excited. I was like, forget the party. I'm gonna go sit here and watch wrestling. Hey, you guys want to learn about Cody Rhodes? Let me tell you about Cody Rhodes. I don't even know anything, but I'm gonna surprise myself with how much I do know right now in this moment with strangers.
That's right. And,
anyways, that's enough of all that.
yeah. A lot of good. There's a lot of bad on the surface with wrestling right now. But if you were a fan, if you were a fan in the past. Give it a shot, check it out again. There is a lot of good stuff going on with more minor characters. So, and if you want to give something else a try, if you're sick of WWE and all their shenanigans, give New Japan Pro Wrestling a shot. Give Ring of Honor a shot because they got a bunch of cool stuff going on. Eternal's got some really great stuff. I think tomorrow.
This is an Eternal podcast.
Yeah. I think tomorrow we'll get our announcement for the tomorrow being Tuesday for anybody listening in the future, Tuesday the 17th. I think we'll get our announcement for this chapter's hero, and we'll get we'll get at least a preview of that, maybe the lore and stuff. But I think this weekend will be the hero event. To get your win of the day, get the hero. Obviously, be prepared for the ETS. If you're climbing the ladder, be prepared for time. And if you are part of a team or you want to make a team, there is the team challenges coming up. So, reach out to people that you want to play with, do some research on your opposition, and, keep on being great because we got a lot of cool stuff in the pipe. Not only with the game, but Team Rankstar has a bunch of cool stuff. A lot of the other teams are putting out a bunch of new content. Platypus King, he's picking back up his stream frequent. Well, the frequency hasn't changed. The durations are getting are coming back up to snuff as long as it's not 1,000 degrees in his abode.
I took last week off of making a video for YouTube, and I might do the same thing this week as well. But for the team thing, I considered not being a part of Team Rankstar for the team event and just doing like viewer team. Like I stream to be on my team, then do the Platypus Island team. But Team Rankstar got to put the whole team on my back and carry them to victory here, so that they can compete in the event, which I do want to compete in the event. So I'm gonna go ahead and just team.
I guess. I can't think of anything else. This has been an interesting podcast. Not just a podcast. This is Unexpected Results, the Eternal podcast. And Platty, obviously, thanks for hosting on your channel. Thanks for allowing me to co-host with you as always. Community, you're great. Keep posting your stuff on Reddit. Keep commenting in Discord and on Eternal Warcry and all these other sites that give you the forum. Go out, watch your streams, watch the YouTube videos. You support the people that you like, support the game, have fun. Don't be jerks. Just keep having fun.
Yeah. Give Yada all your money. That's what you're trying to say. Got it. Well, this has been Unexpected Results, the Eternal Podcast. Find us at eternalpodcast.com, twitch.tv/theplatypusking, patreon.com/theplatypusking, at MantedMan, at Platypus Island. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Au revoir.